if we get if we get a show that manages to harness all of that by showing a field full of crabs with labels on them going, "This too is Yuri," like, you'll just die. I think that
it'll be like the fucking frog full of blood again.
Oh my god.
Hello, welcome to So We're Watching That Right, a podcast where two lesbians bully each other for having the same taste in anime. I'm Becky, scientifically certified best girl.
And I'm Val, everyone's favorite harem protagonist.
I have watched, by my count, 89 episodes of anime from this season in the 4 weeks since we last talked about these shows, so we're going to have to go fast today. Starting with, I made friends with the second prettiest girl in my class.
Mm-hmm.
Really, threw its weight around these 4 episodes, because we had an arc about basically explaining Umi and Yu's friendship.
Mm-hmm.
So it used to be that Umi was the popular one and Yu was kind of an outsider because she was a transfer student and she's blonde hair and blue eyes naturally. And then Yu kind of blossomed in middle school, and eventually it got to the point where some of their mutual friends started blowing Umi off to just hang out with Yu, which did feel wildly cruel. I know that middle school is horrible, but that felt kind of out of pocket to me.
Yeah, I mean, it does. It is. That's why it's such a thing that she has to put up with.
Yeah. And then this happens because you found out that Umi and Maki had been hanging out together without her and she got upset. There's this really, nice, thoughtful moment where Umi has to deal with the fact that she has done to you exactly what you did to her.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not entirely accidental or unthinking on her part. But they reconcile, and as punishment or whatever, you insist on getting to be a wall the next time Maki and Umi hang out. And she's literally in their flat during their regular hangout, or in Maki's flat during their regular hangout, wrapped in a blanket, pretending to be a ghost, and just feeding off their chemistry.
Yep, we have a few people in our life like that.
We have made a podcast that is basically the equivalent of us doing that, but in the front window of our flat for the whole world to see. But we see a demonstration of the power of Gyaru friendship, with Maki bonding with a guy in his class who tries to use him to get close to Yu, and Yu is not interested or persuaded by this in any way, but it's enough to make Maki a friend, so that's nice. And then, to our stunned amazement, Umi actually confesses to Maki in the middle of the season, and he gives a very honest answer about not being sure what to do, and she teases him about it a bunch. And then he does actually ask her to go on a date with him, which also rules.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we're in the land of teens who can talk to one another. And I think this is doing it really well. Polar Opposites we celebrated for, the teens always solve their problems by talking to each other fairly fluently.
Mm-hmm.
In this, it's a bit more mixed than that, right? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But anyway, Umi says she's happy to go on a date with Maki, provided he lets her take him clothes shopping.
Yep.
The day before. Which
is to be expected. He is a main character in one of these stories. He is not exactly blessed with style or the sense to have more proper clothes for going on dates than going on out to get games and movies for his weekly chill sessions.
Yeah, he would go out in a ratty t-shirt. So she takes him clothes shopping and Yu tags along. And mercifully, it seems like they didn't buy one of those single shoulder strap bags. I'm on the warpath about these things. It's so common in anime at the moment where when the boy dresses up, he wears what looks to me like a bum bag as a shoulder strap thing. And I hate it.
Or for the Americans out there, a fanny pack. Which is...
I'm sorry, bum bag is a less bad term for that thing.
That is a distinction across the Atlantic.
It is worse to say fanny pack than bum bag, and you will not convince me otherwise.
You would have to literally explain yourself every time you said bum bag, though.
I'm a teacher. Explaining things is what I do.
I am a normal person. Citation
I'm
needed.
going to make you explain for me.
And I'm just... If you say fanny pack, Americans will get it.
Yeah.
If you say bum bag, you will have to explain it every time, and that will turn into comments for us. I'm just like, what the fuck is a bum bag? Ask my wife.
To be fair, I might well have said fanny pack if I'd remembered the term, but all I could remember was bum bag. Anyway, they're on this clothes shopping trip, and like Yu gets knocked over, and Maki catches her, and it like they have a moment, and Umi is getting more openly jealous about them being close, so like she grabs his hand, and the rest of the date they're holding hands, which is great. Sorry, the rest of the clothes shopping trip that is totally not a date in its own right.
It's not like they're going to have it pointed out that is just a date afterwards.
Yeah. Anyway, then he gets ambushed by his dad, completely coincidentally, who like his parents are separated, and he's clearly got some pain about that, and he just runs into his dad in the shopping mall, and that's probably going to be horrible next week, but we'll get there when we get there. I am still, like, this show and Gals Can't Be Kind to Otaku have diverged a bit, but it does still feel to me a bit like Otagal is the light-hearted version of Second Prettiest Girl. It's not that there's no teeth to Otagal, because there's this constant undercurrent of the two girls not fighting but maneuvering to get time alone with Seo.
It's definitely a lot more like there's not a lot of jealousy. It's just envy, which is a distinction worth making, because jealousy is like you're afraid someone else is going to take something away from you, or you're going to lose something. Meanwhile, envy is just like, I want that too.
Yes. Boy, do they ever.
Yeah.
Which is really good when they all go to the beach together, along with Kei and Kotoko's younger siblings, and it's so obvious to the younger siblings that they get into a fight on their sisters' behalves about who Seo should date.
Yeah, it's the proxy war going on.
And then in one of the wildest swings we've seen a rom-com of this type take.
I mean, wild for you. This is not... This is more common than you'd think.
It probably is. Kei asks Seo to help her out with something, and it's her mother is the hair and makeup designer for a photo shoot for modelling, and Kei is an amateur model, and they've been asked to model in a wedding chapel. And her mum's told her to bring a boy along. So they model a wedding, which they both cope with very well. And then they go to the festival, and I wasn't even sure who it was that Kei got like taken away with.
Her middle school friends
of hers or whatever. Yeah. And this leaves Seo alone with Kotoko. Kotoko is in her yukata looking stunning. They watch the fireworks together, and Kotoko blurts out a confession. So again, with the getting the confessions out of the way halfway through the show so that we can do the interesting stuff, which is what happens after that.
Yep.
I'm sure they're going to be very normal about this.
Yeah, especially with Kotoko and Kei going, no, well, I'm into you too, at each other afterwards.
Yeah. Oh, God, we were cheering so loud.
Yep.
I felt kind of bad for my upstairs neighbour. I had a segue, and then you said that, and you're right, and I want to dwell on that moment and just not segue. Anyway, in the Klutzy class monitor and the girl with the short skirt, we are introduced to Poem's family. Her sister, Lyric, and her father, Rhyme. And it turns out that Rhyme is so named because he used to be a rapper, and he sees Togo walking into a crowd of youths who are doing a like freestyle rap battle in public, and Togo of course is against this because it's disorderly and what have you, and Togo joins the rap battle and out-raps all these youths, thereby sort of winning Rhyme's approval.
Up until the instant he sees him with his daughter.
Yes. We get some fun stuff with Akari, their friend who is into Izubuchi, the
health committee guy.
The health committee Yankee. And then we get an episode about Tasaki, the other friend of Poem's, who is in the lit club. And they go to the lit club, Poem goes to the lit club with Tasaki, and it turns out to be a BL-focused lit club. And Tasaki presents her entry for their, like, zine. And it is a completely normal shonen manga about Togo and Izubuchi, like, fighting together, fighting alongside one another. And Poe's sat there like, where's the BL in this? And she just doesn't get it. Like, they genuinely made an arc about the yaoi of absence.
Yep, and the counterpart to your favorite.
It's good. I think it's also, like, I make that joke because I like that joke, but also because I think it is interesting to reflect on the fact that Yaoi of Absence specifically imagines Yuri without girls, whereas what I'm calling Yaoi of Absence here does have boys in it, and what's absent is the yaoi part.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that's still within the spirit of the idea of Yaoi of Absence, which, while Yaoi of Absence is a terrible name for that, I do think is a thing. Then there is I Want to End This Love Game, which is exactly its pitch. Like, these two kids are just dumb as rocks about each other. They go on a date. I forget exactly how they ended up going on a date, but Yukiya's approach to taking Miku on a date is he books her a fitting at, like, a really fancy dress shop and buys her a really fancy dress. And then he takes her to a really fancy restaurant, and then later he gives her a tiara?
Yep, because it's all modeled after shoujo manga.
And I just, oh my god, I can't with that. Like, you know, when we discussed Watarikan's Blank is About to Collapse, we talked a lot about poverty in that show, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how teens in Japanese rom-com anime are usually rich. It is seldom made so obvious as it is here.
I think he did do a lot of, like, saving up from a part-time job for that. The thing is, it's either that characters are very rich and it's never quite remarked on, or they're not in danger of falling into, like, poverty-related situations for the plot, but they will go, okay, if I want to have spending money to do this thing, I need to go pick up a job.
Yeah. Yes, it's very...
Which is usually an excuse for an arc or two.
Yeah. If anybody wants to read my deeper thoughts on this, read my twine about Persona 3, where I get into the economics of the way that Japanese media have nostalgia for the expensive parts of being a teenager in some detail. It is a pet peeve of mine.
As a permanently broke girl, I'm also... It's a little bit of a pet peeve of mine, but yeah.
Finally, in this first block of Boy Meets Gyaru, there is Mistress Kanan is Devilishly Easy, in which we have spent 3 episodes watching the intro arc for this show's honestly kind of inevitable clueless sexpot angel.
Yeah.
Like, that's just, if you have a succubus seducing a boy in an anime, you kind of have to have a clueless sexpot angel, and she's super clueless and she's super a sexpot.
The thing is, I think she knows more about sex than the main character. Because of Ami, which is...
Yeah, I mean, Ami does have to take her aside and give her sex ed, which almost breaks her.
Yeah. What a
God.
series.
It's so much. How it is not nearly as much as Marriage-Toxin.
Yeah.
So, the story here is this guy who's been raised from infancy as an assassin. He's getting to encounter normal life through this interpretive framework of, one, he's got to find someone to marry so that his sister doesn't have to marry a man and have children because his sister is a lesbian, and someone needs to carry on the family line.
Mm-hmm.
He meets a gender fluid person and rescues them, and they kind of appoint themselves his wingman.
Well, he does rescue them outright under the pretense of, like, you're going to help me find someone to marry.
True,
because
yes.
you're really good at marriage scams, so clearly you know how to make this happen.
Yes.
And I need the fucking help.
Yeah. Yes, we encounter gender fluid wingman because they have been running marriage scams on both genders and finally got into trouble for it. I'm not sure we've seen them present mask since the end of their introductory arc.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I was also going to say, like, they have a female voice actress. They don't exactly change their presentation even when they're going mask for the brief periods we see them as.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a bit like the thing where our queer-friendly show only has lesbians and bisexual girls. Like, it makes me feel a little bit like something exploitative is going on there. But that character is so good, and the energy on this show is so good that it doesn't feel too bad. And the thing is that Gero is really excited for all sorts of ordinary life stuff. And he's actually kind of a sweetie when he's given a chance to express himself at all.
Yeah, it's definitely the sort of thing where, like, a lot of people have the experience of, like, being sheltered in, like, a not intentional way. Just kind of they don't get out of their shell before they turn a certain age, and by the time they get around to it, they're just really excited to, like, participate in normal social stuff, and they come off a little too eager in some ways that put some people off. And he's kind of like that, but he has so many excuses.
You don't have to call out my resurgent interest in tabletop RPGs this hard, babe.
I love you, dear. I'm excited. I've been excited to go on actual physical dates with people. It's fine.
Yeah. Anyway, that's Marriage Toxin, and lots of stuff happens. And there's also Kill Blue, which is the same genre fundamentally, but with age regression.
Yep.
This is almost exactly the same character as Gero, but he gets reduced to middle school age and has to infiltrate a middle school and have a kind of boy meets Gyaru kind of plot.
All the while, he's dealing with his ex-wife, also working for his organization, trying to age regress him.
Yes.
And having a daughter that is now the same age / older than his current form.
Yes.
It's weird. I'm like, I really am enjoying it, but that is kind of like, where are you going with this? This needs to tread a real fine line, but and not be creepy about it.
Yeah. And, like, there is a scene where he realizes that the reason that he's so keen to look after and protect this girl that he's gotten involved in fake dating with is because she reminds him of his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there is something very paternal, not about their relationship, but about his willingness to go to bat for her.
Yeah.
Because she has been placed at the center of a boys are going to come and duel for your hand in marriage bullshit deal by her rich family. And that means that we get a bunch of quirky assassins, the first of whom is called Babyface Baby and challenges our hero to a pacifier duel, which is he has to avoid letting Babyface Baby put a pacifier in his mouth for an hour.
Yep.
Fuck is this show?
This show is a little much. Mm-hmm. The source material also finished up somewhat recently, so once the show finishes, I might go finish reading the thing, depending on where it leaves off. Because, again, it's treading a real fine line that I'm not 100% certain I'll be comfortable with by the end, but
yeah,
we'll see.
Talk about treading fine lines.
This one tripped over it.
This one has kind of scuffed the line. So this is Petals of Reincarnation, which I did say last time I wasn't sure whether it was going to be okay overall. I have decided to drop it as of this week's episode. The thing with this is the core plot of it is up my alley because it is the main character, Toya, gets into this supernatural like fight kind of war kind of deal, gets taken in by the self-identified good guys, and not even terribly gradually comes to realize that they're not that good, and he has to turn on them. And you know, I like that because it feels a bit like how I feel about my upbringing, honestly. But it's something you have to do very carefully, and this show is burdened both with a very, very absolutist ethical classification where all the returners are greats or sinners, good or evil, and the direct invocation of real historical figures. In the most recent episode, which is the turning point episode, the episode where Toya turns against the Forest of the Greats, it is revealed that the entire good guy faction have been mind-controlled by Florence Nightingale as part of a scheme to wipe out almost all of humanity except for a kept breeding population so that they can just breed the good talents and prevent the bad talents reincarnating.
That's... Ugh.
Yeah, so they made Florence Nightingale a eugenicist, which, you know, maybe there's some history there. I'm not an expert on Florence Nightingale. You know, the period is almost right for it.
The only Florence Nightingale I'm familiar with is from actual Fate, so...
I mean, I'll talk about Ghost Concert Missing Songs in a second. She's also in that. She's just a fixture of any Fate show, I guess.
She's hot. Shrugs.
But even more than the potentially defamatory character of that vis-a-vis Florence Nightingale is the problem that this positions Toya on the side of Hitler and Pol Pot and Shang Yu and Ed Gein and a whole bunch of other serial killers.
Mm-hmm.
And like, there is a chunk of flashback where it is explained that the reason Shang Yu turned against the Forest of the Greats. So Shang Yu historically is like a classical Chinese warlord, I think, Warring States period warlord, or Wars of the Three Kingdoms, I forget which. And he's the leader of the evil faction. He used to be in the good faction, and he left them. And he left them partly because they were planning to murder Hitler and Pol Pot. And it's like, I'm fine with, hey, you can't just murder people to make the world a better place. I'm fine with that as a message. Like, sometimes fascists force you to kill them to stop them. I don't think that we should preemptively kill, generally speaking. But you can't do that with Hitler, right? The meaning of Hitler as a real historical figure and a cultural symbol does not have that flexibility.
Yeah.
And it sucks. So I'm not watching that show anymore. I am going to stick with Ghost Concert Missing Songs because although it's the same, fundamentally the same idea of you get powers from historical figures who are being reincarnated or like persisting after death, whatever, they're ghosts in this. Ghost Concert doesn't have the moral absolutism. And when it does put Seria through these sympathetic encounters with historical villains, which, it's happened a bunch. It's always about a personal reconciliation. It's always about like identifying some hurt that is in this character and enabling them as a ghost to kind of not necessarily go to rest, but be at something more like peace. And there are nuances to that idea, but it's vastly preferable to Petals of Reincarnation. And Ghost Concert also turns all of this to the purpose of a story about why AI music is bad and why generative AI is bad, and the idea of replacing all of human culture with bespoke, personally generated algorithmic content is bad. It's not surgical because it is more violent about this than that, but it is like a skilled sword fighter just cutting their enemy to pieces about the whole AI bullshit in a way that's really satisfying. And that links it not just to entertainment culture, but to all the history that's bound up in that. It's genuinely a really clever show. And the foil to the main character, Kaede, is so gay for Seria. Like, Seria clearly is affectionate towards Kaede. How affectionate and how much room she'll make for her in her life remains to be seen. But again, that show is at its kind of mid-season turning point as well, and I'm looking forward to seeing the rest. And hopefully I'll be able to figure out what the in-world factions are, because there's some really complicated in-setting politics about this too. Which I guess is a perfect segue to talking about Ramparts of Ice. Although in this case it's like gender and sex politics rather than factional. This show, it isn't quite as potently vicious as Watrikun's Blank is about to collapse, but it has turned out way more real than I think we were expecting. Certainly than I was expecting from the Polar Opposites author.
Yeah, you were being a little prejudiced towards things being sweeter than they were gonna be, given Polar Opposites being our, intro to this.
Well, I think this is unusually pointed for teen drama comedy shows. Like, full-on teen drama, I think, that's the register this sits in, but it's animated like a comedy show a lot, and it is sometimes very funny.
A lot of dramas are. I will say this is probably just you lacking as much experience with anime as I have gained over the years.
Yeah, so it gets into the consequences of a chance phrase, for example. So in middle school, there's this boy Igarashi who is interested in Koyuki, the main character, and Koyuki's friend Miki, who is struggling in love, somewhat bitterly says to her, "You should be glad someone's into you, that it might be the only person who ever is." And Koyuki, who, it's risky to project autism onto characters, but sometimes you just can't not. Koyuki takes this really powerfully to heart, and so she goes out with Igarashi and it does not go well. And then it turns out that Minato, the boy that has been befriending Koyuki, knows Igarashi through inter-school sports. And so there's a whole blow up about that was really genuinely painful and still is unresolved. Like, we don't know what went wrong with Igarashi and Koyuki's relationship. There've been hints, but nothing concrete. And Miki feels really bad about it because she thinks it's her fault that the relationship happened. Minato feels really bad about it because he's the one who kind of brought it up. Koyuki feels really bad about it because she's traumatized. And Minato is also he wants to be the popular guy who can swoop into people's lives and cheer them up and bring them into community and so on. And Koyuki is presenting him with more difficulty in that regard than he's ever encountered before. He is actually still helping. His interactions with her are having positive effects, but not anything like as much as he's used to. And it gets to the point where Miki has to yell at him to say, "Hey, stop meddling." And I feel that urge to try to fix things for people you like. And I recognize it from my teens, and it hurts because it's a bad idea and it's a bad way to think about the world. But oof.
I was just going to say, it's definitely a doozy, and you definitely feel like the sort of person who would be called out by this.
I feel called out, I think, by every character in this except maybe Yota. Oh, God. And so Yota's the tall guy who's Minato's best friend. And he had, like, his mother died when he was quite young, and his father remarried a woman who is not actually that much older than him. His father and his stepmom have 2 young sons. And Yota has been feeling a bit kind of pushed out of the family, like he doesn't really fit. And then he's able to bond with Koyuki, whose parents are divorced. And he kind of opens up about all this stuff for the first time. And that is enough to help. Like, that kind of fixes it for him. He's able to go home and, like, feel at peace and comfortable with his family again. And again, it's a muddled, awkward conversation. I wasn't sure whether Yota took the things Koyuki said as expressing an interest in him or not, but there is this really awkward moment at the end of that where he admits that he's into Miki, and we know Miki is into him, and they are, like, passing in the night without kind of connecting. And Koyuki knows that Miki is into Yota, but Miki thinks that Koyuki and Yota are getting together, and Minato is the one who's actually into Koyuki, and the relationship graph is getting complicated.
Just how I like it.
It's good. Then the next arc is Miki is like a popular girl now, a kind of bright light on school grounds, but not regarded as a goofball. And some people just spotted her being a goofball with Minato and Yota at school, and so her public image is presumably going to fall apart, which is what she wants. Like, she doesn't like having the public image that she has.
But it's hard to force that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of it is, you gotta keep it up, too, once that crack happens, which is not easy.
Yeah. But all the horrors of that show pale in comparison to even a replica can fall in love. Which, content warning, discussion of a fictional suicide attempt for this show. So we get the backstory because we had just discovered, last time we checked in on this show, that not only is now a replica, but so is the boy that she's been befriending, Shuya. Although, in this case, it's actually Aki. Again, names and keeping track of characters in this. But basically, Shuya was a basketball star. He was stealing attention from a senior called Hayase, and Hayase got so jealous that he attacked Shuya and broke his ankle. And Aki emerged out of Shuya's desire for revenge. And that revenge is not merely, like, humiliating Hayase or getting him held accountable or whatever. It's literally a plot to kill him.
Well, or beat the shit out of him at the very least, and have actual Shuya known elsewhere so he has an alibi.
Yeah. And Aki decides he's not going to beat Hayase up, but he will humiliate him at basketball, which he duly does. And in revenge for that, Hayase tries to push him in front of a train because clearly this kid is not okay. And now is with Aki on the platform when Hayase pushes him, and she is able to pull Aki back from the edge, but she falls in front of the train herself. But because she's a replica, she doesn't die. She just gets resummoned. And this leads her into a understandable existential crisis, which leads to her trying to literally walk into the sea, and then Aki goes and saves her, and they end up declaring their love, and now they're dating, and it's... God, the payoff for that is so good, because that's how we find out that basically everybody's already kind of figured out that they're replicas.
Yeah, the people who are in this story as, like, characters so far, at least.
Yeah, and so Shuya and Sunao, the originals, start to become friends as well, which is like the funniest possible way of reintegrating these two deeply broken kids. And we are on the theatre club arc, which is doing fairly typical theatre club arc things, but also somebody has just started spreading flyers around the school saying, there's a doppelganger at our school. And this makes Nao very worried that she's about to be found out. Also, Aki is under threat from this, but I think it is entirely possible that there's going to be a third replica running around, and it turns out that that's the replica that they're trying to out.
I'm definitely...
There's definitely at least one more replica in the offing.
Yep. I fully expect it to be the former student council president.
Yeah, that's a very likely one. She's involved in the theatre stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's Haibara's Teenage New Game Plus, which isn't as painful as Replica, but it's still kind of getting painful because Haibara is being too successful at New Game Plus, and he's too cool and too sexy, and it's messing everything up because he's taking all the girls.
He's displaying emotional maturity.
Yes.
Which is really, really attractive when you're a teen.
Yes.
Shockingly.
To be fair, he's not doing this at all deliberately.
Yeah.
It's just that he's got some grown-up instincts and knows how to look after the people around him, and that is drawing them to him. And I don't know if the show is going for like a parable kind of thing of be careful what you wish for, because if you get it, it will fuck everything up. But it's giving me a bit that feeling. And, you know, I'm now a little bit on edge watching it because of, like, where might they be going with that setup? But now they are preparing to go on a trip to the beach over the summer, and they're going to hire a villa because, again, rich kids. And Hikari, the girl Natsuki has an actual crush on, isn't being allowed to go because her father is a bastard and he's really strict. And fuck that guy. I hate him. Speaking of bad fathers, there's the angel next door spoils me rotten. You know, families are a sensitive subject for me, and nothing gets me madder at an anime than having to watch someone like Hikari's father being a dick. I did want to mention that actually Amane's family in this are a good family, and I like them because they're understanding and they're supportive and they give the kids space. They're maybe a little bit too much fans of their kid and his girlfriend having a relationship, but it's not creepy, it's just embarrassing.
Yeah. The worst you could say about them is that they're trying a little too hard to be the cool parents.
A friend of mine, when I was undergrad, told the story of the first time he brought his then girlfriend home. They went up to his room and they found that his parents had set out an entire tray of different kinds of birth control and a bucket with a bottle of champagne in.
Jesus Christ.
It's that energy.
Yeah. I'm just like, nothing an anime does will ever top me introducing my harem to my parents at a Denny's. So, like...
That was pretty funny.
It is pretty funny. It will be a story that is now recorded for posterity.
That was the day I dared the really elaborate pancakes, and I couldn't finish them because I couldn't finish anything at that Denny's. British stomach.
It happens.
But as you predicted entirely correctly, after finishing up the arc with Amane's family, we were going to deal with Mahiru's family. And what happens is Amane is coming home and he sees a weird man staring up at their apartment from the street outside. And this turns out to be Mahiru's dad. And Mahiru has been fundamentally abandoned by her family. And even now, her father is not there to try to reconcile or anything. He wants to know that she's doing okay, but he's too chicken to actually see her or interact with her at all. So he tries to do it through Amane, and Amane is rightfully pissed about this. It's like, this, you should be saying this to her instead of taking me out to a restaurant. What the fuck, dude? And I really appreciated how willing Amane was to, like, stand up to this guy. Like, you know, it's easy to joke about Amane and Mahiru being married already, but they are so married and in robust, emotionally mature ways, as well as the goofy, like, living together stuff, or basically living together.
It's also just, like, it's not often that you will see partners in anime relationships fully ready to basically fight their partner's parents for being assholes.
Yeah, that was really, like, satisfying.
Get you a partner who will do that if needs be.
Yes.
Like, if you went no contact with your parents.
Yeah. Someone's got to hold that line.
Yep.
Right. Time for Becky's Creature Corner for this month.
Let's go to the zoo.
God, it's such a zoo. So, starting with Kirio Fanclub, which...
You have been wanting to talk to me about a specific thing for this for like several weeks now, and you've had to wait, and I'm so curious what the fuck could be going on in this show.
What's going on in this show is teens are gross, and I mean gross as in disgusting, not gross as in, like, evil. Teens are often, like, testing the boundaries of acceptable discourse, and so they say gross stuff. And this show captures that really well, and that's the surface layer of comedy on it, right? Is that Aimi and Nami are so head over heels about this boy and so mutually reinforcing in their attraction to him that they say all kinds of out-of-pocket shit all the time. Underneath that is genuine, toothy teen drama that has some deep tragedy to it, which I'll get to in a moment. But the thing I have to tell you about that sums up the surface humor of this show, we are introduced to a girl named Sarah who has a bunch of basically creep shots of Aimi and Nami on her phone. That's how she's introduced. And she's, like, stalking them, basically.
Lordy.
And it turns out that this is because one time they were in their favorite cafe talking about Kirio, and Sarah was in the next booth, and she overheard them talking about which of Kirio's bodily fluids they would want to drink, and arguing about why piss wasn't on the list of available options. And Sarah, who is like the word for somebody who is really too into their Oshi.
Kachikoi?
Yeah. Like, she is bonkers over some, like, 2D boys. And she hears these girls being as bonkers as she is, but about a 3D boy, and becomes their biggest fan and secret admirer. So that when the relationship graph starts to emerge and Aimi and Nami go to hang out with Kirio and his bro Hayato, Sarah takes a temp job at that cafe in order to be able to spy on them.
Fuck! That's so much.
And then, because it is Aimi and Nami's regular place, the proprietor has heard them talk about Kirio a bunch and has this impression of Kirio as being like a fucking magical shonen hero. And Sarah's interest in what's going on lets slip to the proprietor that this is Kirio. This is Dragon Kirio. And
oh no.
Oh man, it's awful. It's delicious. But this relationship graph. So Aimi and Nami are in love with Kirio. Hayato turns out to be in love with Nami, who is the slightly more in touch with reality of the two girls. There's a girl called Satsuki who Aimi and Nami think is trying to take Kirio from them, but is actually into Hayato. And the really key thing is that the reason that Kirio is always in brooding, miserable anime boy mode, where you never see his eyes, his fringe is always shading them, you almost never actually see his face at all, is because he's grieving. He's grieving the loss of a childhood friend, whose name is Nozomi. And you think, okay, this is his childhood sweetheart. And indeed, we learn that Aimi first fell for Kirio because she was visiting her granddad in hospital, and she saw Kirio like in another room with Nozomi, keeping Nozomi company. And then Nozomi passes away, and Aimi doesn't see Kirio at the hospital anymore, but they end up in school together, and so on. The trick is that Nozomi is revealed to be a boy. And it's very ambiguous whether this is a romantic attachment that Kirio has. But one of his last messages to Nozomi, he's kept his messages with Nozomi on his phone. Mm-hmm. And we see him going through them. One of the last ones is, "The moon is beautiful tonight, isn't it?"
Oh.
So it might well be that at the end of this relationship graph, these two girls are in love with a boy who is gay, which would just be, like, perfect tragedy.
Peak.
Yeah, like, it's...
That's wild, honestly.
Yeah, the show's good. The show is stunningly
so
good.
much.
Yeah. A show that is in some ways similarly gritty, but way more sprawling, is Eren the Southpaw. Of the 4 episodes that I've watched since last I talked about this show, 3 of them had no more than the odd, like, insert shot or flashback of Eren. It's entirely about Koichi's, the main character's, like, life as a corporate peon in a big design firm. And it's extremely confusing because it hops back and forth along the timeline a lot. We go into the backstories of some of his bosses and managers and so on. You know, it's compelling enough drama and it's affecting, but it's just not about Eren at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then Eren comes, like, the most recent episode switches the focus to Eren in college, where we are introduced to another girl, Akari, who truly blows up everything in the show. She is a first year when Eren is doing her final year project, and she sees some of Eren's drawings and is kind of captivated by them, and really is trying to make an effort to, like, befriend Eren and kind of bond with her. And she's a model. That's her, like, practice as an artist. And she gives Eren a ticket to a show that she's doing, which turns out to have Koichi as its creative director, just for extra confusion. And Eren goes to see the show, but she says something dismissive to Akari about, well, models just walk back and forth. And then Akari comes out to do her catwalk and completely blows her away with the performance of it. And as Akari is going back, you know, finishing the walk and going off stage, it cuts back to Eren looking at her, and she has an anime nosebleed. It's the funniest, like, anime nosebleed at seeing a hot girl being hot I've ever seen. And then Eren like barges backstage because she wants to like see this girl in time to see her running up on Koichi, cabadoning him and kissing him full on the mouth. Sorry, no, she doesn't cabadon Koichi. She just like grabs him and kisses him. And then Eren backs her into a corner and cabadons her and says, please let me draw you, because she wants to use her as a model for her final project. Then clearly Akari has a kind of weird relationship with Koichi. At one point, she is reflecting to herself and she says, I found myself a nice toy to play with about him. And she's running rings around him in a bunch of ways. He kind of doesn't really like her, but she's coming on so strong and she's so attractive that he's finding it quite difficult to set boundaries. There's a great shot where they're outside after a date. They're about to like part for the night, and he walks across a zebra crossing, or a pedestrian crossing, I guess. They're on opposite sides of the road, and she shouts to him, hey, do you want me to break up with my boyfriend? And he says he doesn't care. And before crossing the road, she places a phone call, and then she walks across the road and says, I just broke up with him, which she feels happy enough about at the end that when she next goes to model for Eren goes, something's changed about you. She realizes it's a boy, and she more or less throws Akari out and refuses to draw her anymore because she's not actually motivated by art. She's motivated by a boy. It's glorious. It's the worst polycule.
Yep.
But the thing that is making Akari such a disaster is because she's a model, she knows that that's a very, very time-limited career. And she's convinced herself that she will hit the peak of her powers at age 27, and after that she might as well die. Which, you know, there's this myth about like the 27 club, right, of like great young artists who die at 27, whether that's Jimi Hendrix and Kurt Cobain and Janis Joplin, or it goes back to John Keats. But like Akari's clearly bought into that, and you know, I can remember being bought into that. A bit younger than Akari, but like it's sort of farcical but too real at the same time. Then there's 100 Scenes of Awajima, which I don't know that I can talk about anymore because this show is like an exam for my worst mental skills. You have to remember so many characters who look quite similar, and I just can't do it. This week's episode was like an ensemble where it went back through all the characters from the first 5 episodes. I couldn't keep them straight in my head. But they can't keep straight anyway, so maybe it's fine. There's a great bit in one of those episodes where these 2 girls who clearly were dating while they were at the school, one of them has quit the stage. They're adults. One of them has quit the stage and is working in artist management. The other is still acting, but is trying to kind of bury any kind of knowledge or expose about her sexuality. And they have an argument about who is betraying their fans more, either by giving up the stage or by pretending not to be gay. There's actually an episode about boys in this show.
That's crazy, actually.
Yeah. So we're introduced to a boy who is a fan of Awajima shows, and he does think at one point, man, I wish I could go to Awajima. It's not that I want to be a girl, but... And he makes a friend online who is also a big fan of Awajima, and they agree to meet to go to one of the shows. And it turns out that this friend, despite using a female name, which is his real name, is a 30-year-old man. And he also says the thing about how he wishes he could have gone to Awajima, but he doesn't want to be a girl.
Sure.
Yeah. Like, please help these 2. It's not that it's bad. There's nothing bad about it. It's thoughtful. It's kind of pretty brutally frank about the cruelties of that environment. But, it's hard to keep track of. I also need to talk about Agents of the Four Seasons, which, like, this is a action thriller drama series. At the heart of it is a tragedy about these 2 girls who love each other very much. Whether exactly it's romantic or not, again, is not clear, but they talk about loving each other. They hold hands a lot. Hinagiku sits in Sakura's lap a bunch, and Sakura is extremely jealous of Hinagiku still being emotionally attached to the man she's in an arranged engagement to, who is the Agent of Winter. And there's deep, deep tragedy in the backstory where Hinagiku is a child of adultery, and her village would really prefer to replace her as Agent of Spring with someone else, but that can't happen until she dies. So when she was kidnapped 10 years ago, they called off the search very quickly in the hope that that would get her killed, which is a brutal way to treat a preteen girl. And Sakura kept looking for her, and all the other groups that had an interest in her survival slowly gave up, and she's never forgiven any of them. But the Agents of Spring are under threat from a group that keeps getting referred to as the Insurgents. And I do not know what their deal is. They literally held Hinagiku captive for 8 years to, I don't know, stop her bringing spring or whatever. And then in the most recent episode, at the end of it, that episode is introducing the Agent of Autumn, who is the same age that Hinagiku was when she was kidnapped. And the insurgents hit her with a cruise missile. And then a strike team comes in and takes her away. And it's like, one, there aren't many insurgents with cruise missiles and strike teams of this level of like military hardware. Two, what the fuck is their agenda?
Yeah, it does seem like...
Don't know what's going on with this one at all.
It does kind of seem like there's a lot of cool spectacle happening, but not much thought put into what's behind it so far.
I mean, the thought is going into, like, the motivations of individual specific characters.
Yeah, but also if you have a giant force of insurgents and you don't have, like, a clear motivating factor even...
Yeah, it is a gap. And maybe they will, like, tell us what the deal is, but also maybe they won't.
Good luck.
And that'd be bad. It's a beautiful show, though. Anyway, do you want to cover Ascendance of a Bookworm?
Yeah, we got around to starting Ascendance of a Bookworm. What did we get up to last time?
I mean, we didn't talk about it in any great detail.
Yeah.
All we said was, like, it's more of the same, basically.
Yeah. It really is just more of the same is the thing. It's got a lot more animation budget this time around, which is really weird to see, but it's...
The action is a bit scaled up, too. We do get a scene where Ferdinand magics an entire castle out of the ground.
Yeah.
That's pretty drastic.
And also, we got the scene where they were using the Tao fruit to summon a Trombe, and that was, like, way more detailed than ever than it has been.
Yes.
And it was really pretty. But yeah, no, it's Rosamund's schemes continue apace. She's making Ferdinand an idol, basically, to raise money for running the cathedral that he already had made for her.
Yeah, when Ferdinand built the cathedral, he spent all of Rosamund's, funds on the raw materials for that, which is just a big pouch of gold dust, basically. And then he tells her, look, we can't run this place. We need to raise funds for it. And Rosamund hits on the idea of doing an idol concert and making Ferdinand perform because all the ladies love him.
Oh, yeah.
He is less than thrilled about this, but he does deserve it. He did spend all her money building a giant cathedral.
Yeah, it's also really funny because it's just like, so why do we need security at this concert? And she's just like, ahem, hey, noble lady who really likes Ferdinand, we have a thing with a picture of him on it. And she's just like, oh my god, I need this. I need like 14 of these, please.
Yeah.
And then she's just like, do you understand now? All of the noble ladies are going to be acting like this.
Oh, I can't wait for the concert scene. It's going to be so good.
My favorite part is that I don't think Ferdinand realizes how popular he is.
No, he doesn't.
Like, it's one thing like, oh, all of these people are nice to me. It's another thing to see a concert hall full of people.
Yeah. It's going to be so
Which
good.
they've already had to find a new venue for because there's too many people that want to go.
They sold out already.
Yeah.
Speaking of concerts, welcome to Demon School Iruma-kun Season 4. It's the music festival arc. The class has to put on a good performance so that they can meet the criteria for them all to keep hold of their special classroom. We get various elements of like character growth and character bonding. Wonderful sequence where Az and Clara realize that they are going to have to stop fighting over Iruma and become friends.
Or at least allies for a little bit.
Yeah. The polycool dream lives. It's so good. Person, the like stealth boy that they have to help, his family ban him from participating in the festival because it's not stealthy enough, and Iruma is able to track him down where he's sulking invisibly on the roof and just does Iruma things until Person is reassured of his friendship, because that's what Iruma does. It gets to the start of the musical festival, everybody's really nervous, and the idol girl in the class gets them to do a praise circle, and it sure did put Caligo, their teacher, in hell because he can't stand that at all and they all praise him. And it was fun thinking about you in that context as well.
I'm gonna get you.
I had that in my notes document, but I didn't put it in the show notes.
No, I knew it was coming because I know you well enough that I knew I wasn't going to get away without drawing aggro.
Anyway, in other Polycule member news, there's an Andusias in this show.
Unrelated to our favorite local cat.
Well, except for also being a very much larger-than-life personality.
I don't think she's this tall.
I said personality.
That's true.
Anyway, yeah, so one of the judges is this guy, Poro Andusias, who has come to the festival because he's heard that they've given the Royal One classroom to a class and he thinks it should be saved for his beloved Count Dirkula. So he's here to be a big hater for the Misfit class and particularly for Iruma. And Iruma is the least hateable boy in the world, so this is not going to go well for Andusias, I'm sure. But we haven't got to their class's performance yet.
Yeah, that's next episode.
And that's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot.
If we were recording this on Sunday like usual, we would have gotten to it, but circumstances...
Things had to be wiggled around a little bit. Some quick, brief mentions of a couple of shows. I stopped watching Snowball Earth because it had some interesting ideas, but it wasn't interested enough in the stuff that I cared about it, and it was wildly inconsistent episode to episode in terms of what it was about, and most of the time it was just basic shonen stuff, which is not really my jam. In its place, I finally started watching Magical Sisters Lulutto Lily, because it took ages to become available. It's now going up on YouTube. This is very classic Magical Girls stuff in a lot of ways, but it is not like Magical Girls Fight Evil. There was an article that came across our Discord this week about Piero, the studio behind it, who made Creamy Mammy, some really influential early Magical Girls stuff. And they have a policy for this series of the Magical Girls stuff can't be about fighting. And instead what it seems like it's going to be about is the bond between these two sisters, one of whom has some trauma. She had a medical issue, and after that she kind of gave up on a lot of the things that brought her joy. So yeah, it's been pleasant so far. Feedback more later. And then we have a couple of... I mean, these are fantasy anime. Always a Catch is technically not Villainess anime.
It's not.
But there are elements of the Villainess anime energy to it, I feel.
It's like, what if Scarlet from May I Ask One Final Thing was well adjusted?
Yeah, pretty much. So Mimi in this show was brought up as one of the boys because she was picked to be the family heir, so she got all the boy training. But then her parents had a late son, and the son automatically became the heir, so Mimi was free to do girl stuff. And the thing that's really pleasant about this show is that she clearly really likes doing the girl stuff as well.
Even if she's kind of bad at it, she's excited.
Yeah, and she gets to be a princess, and it's great. And so far, there's no indication that getting to be a princess is going to interfere with her ability to fuck people up.
Yeah, she did wade through an entire house full of fully armored knights with nothing but a knuckle duster hairpin.
She also punched a bunch of those guys in armor with her bare fist.
Yeah.
Great. A show that is technically a Villainess show, except that Bertia is too sweet to be a Villainess, is an observation log of my fiancée who calls herself a Villainess, in which Bertia is still desperately trying to prevent Cecil, her betrothed, from any relationship other than the one with the isekai visual novel's heroine. So, in order to get all the other potential romanceable characters out of the way, in the space of a single episode, she matchmakes them all with their sort of main route canon partners, in a display of romantic competence that truly dwarfs everything else we've ever discussed on this show, and sadly doesn't even slightly extend to her own case. Cecil, her betrothed, is actually starting to get upset about how much she's trying to push him at this other woman, because he, although he hasn't yet, has fallen for her. Then there's this weird arc where it seems to be playing the heroine bullies the villainess stuff that we've seen in other shows of this ilk, but it turns out that she's being framed for the bullying by some other random woman at the school. This does lead to Heronia, the heroine, having a rant to Bertia's face that lets slip that she's also an isekai, but I don't think Bertia actually reacted to that at all.
Yeah, no, I feel like they have had verbal sparring matches before where that was relevant. I don't think she... I think she has known and just doesn't care.
Fair enough. I don't think Cecil reacted to it either, which is interesting, and whether that means he will start taking it more seriously or not. The only thing he is taking seriously at the moment is that Bertia introduced the school to the idea of a cultural festival, and someone set up a, vote for the best couple in school, and Cecil spent a bunch of time at the festival doting on Bertia to make sure that they won.
Mm-hmm.
And then Bertia had to announce herself as winner, which is good fun.
Mm-hmm.
In Killed Again, Mr. Detective, here's the thing. The detective stuff in this show is, goofy fun. It's probably pretty good at being a detective show all told. And there's also the reincarnation stuff, which keeps showing up in the plot. Doesn't make a huge difference, except for one time Sakia gets his head cut off and gets head swapped with a different corpse.
Mm-hmm.
And so he makes Lily cut his head off again to swap them back, which is fine, I guess.
Yeah.
But what's actually going on here is this is a harem show. Where there are these 7 villain girls who are all interested in the protagonist, and he's having to deal with them all, and he doesn't realize this yet. And it's so fun to watch a chemical reaction start to happen that you know is going to lead to an explosion.
Mm-hmm.
In Botan Kamiina Fully Blossoms and Drunk, Botan appears to own a Blauhai. The IKEA shark. She has a shark plushie that is suspiciously Blauhai-like.
Mm-hmm.
I think the thing that really I like about this show is because it's set in college, it sits in its ambiguity a lot more about exactly what the relationships are. Because these are characters who have grown out of that teenage need to define everything and be precise about, are we really dating or not? So Botan and Ibuki are doing a bunch of very, very datey things. They get dolled up nice and they go to a fancy bar so that Botan can be introduced to the idea of cocktails. On one of their excursions, they come across a love matching shrine, and Botan persuades Ibuki to write her name on a talisman and put it on the shrine and stuff. And there's also the grad student, Gujo, who is kind of older sister coded or mom coded, but she is also really interested in Ibuki and clearly had a thing going with Ibuki before Botan came along. Not fully committed or anything, but there was a bond growing there.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a love rivalry happening, but it never gets voiced outright in a way that's really interesting. The whole show just kind of floats in this pastel haze that I think is very apt for a show about getting drunk.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been enjoying that one a lot. And then there's Marika's Love Me to Malfunction, which continues to kind of spoil itself by being horny.
Yep, unnecessarily, completely added scenes for the show.
Yeah.
That end up taking up half the runtime of the show.
Which, when we're talking about 5-minute episodes, is a pain.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that has been established in the episodes we've watched up to this point is that the love meters are real physical objects, because part of one of them comes off and twats him across the face and sends him flying. And he's the only one who can see this, but the girls who were there at the time do see him go flying.
Mm-hmm.
So God knows what's going on there.
Yeah, it's best when it's being a surreal comedy about the premise.
The comedy is so good.
And not when it's trying to be horny to sell copies of the Blu-ray. I don't know why this got made in the form that it did.
Me either. It's baffling.
You wanted a different show. Why didn't... Grumble.
Anyway. So we're watching That Writer's Project of Slimebook Productions. Intro and outro music is by me, graphics are by Val, and this episode is edited by Numinous. You can find us on Bluesky at slimebook.bscout.social, YouTube at youtube.com/Slimebook Productions, Patreon at patreon.com/Slimebook Productions, download all episodes from Libsyn at slimebook.pro, and join our Discord via the link in the description. Thanks for listening, and until next time, may anime neither betray nor disappoint you.